Hi, welcome to BariNation, where we support the bariatric community with humor, humility, and honesty.
You've just tuned into a podcast that welcomes you into a community, a resource center, and a safe place that powers your journey towards personal wellness.
Our goal is you leave us today feeling hopeful, inspired, and ready to live your best bariatric life.
This episode of the BariNation podcast is brought to you through the generosity of Advent Health Central Florida. If you've struggled with weight loss, you know it's more than a single procedure or appointment. It's a lifelong journey that requires support for your whole health at every stage. At the Advent Health Metabolic Health Institute in Central Florida, they look at your whole health picture and address the root cause of weight gain. From lifestyle support and medication to bariatric surgery options, their team is here to help you build sustainable habits and reach your goals. Wherever you are in your journey, you don't have to navigate it alone. Learn more at adventhealthweightloss.com or click the link in our show notes. Friends, we are so excited to bring you this episode with Dr. Rachel Goldman. Before we dive in, we want to call out something really important. In this conversation, Dr. Goldman talks about the difference between knowing and doing. Knowing about the tools we need along our journey is where we all start. But real change happens when you learn how to use them, practice them, and have people in your corner when life happens. In the BariNation support community, that is exactly what we do. Every single week, licensed mental health experts teach our community members how to use these tools. Laura Grabo, Christy DeLaura, Melanie Lindell, Sarah Smith, and Katie Booker bring the same CBT-based tools Dr. Goldman talks about in this episode directly to you, not in a one-hour appointment behind closed doors, but live, in community, in the moments that matter to you. You can know it in your head, or you can practice it until it changes your life. Come practice with us. Become a member of the BariNation community and start learning what to do when life happens. Head to barination.mn.co or click the link in our show notes to learn more. Hello, friends. Welcome to the BariNation podcast. Today, we are introducing you to one of our truly most favorite humans on the planet. We've been following her for years. She is an amazing expert in obesity medicine and patient care, Dr. Rachel Goldman. Hello, Dr. Rachel.
Hi, it is so lovely and amazing to be here with both of you today. It's great after connecting and following each other as well for years. It's just amazing to have this conversation. So thank you.
We are thrilled. I had the honor of meeting you a few years ago at ASMBS, and we have been conversating back and forth, and your work has really skyrocketed to the top of our feeds because you're speaking directly to the thing that I think every single one of us feel. It's this disconnect between knowing the work that needs to be done and actually doing it. Sometimes we know what we need to do, but we're unsure how to implement it, or we don't even know where to begin when life happens. And you're publishing a brand new book all about this. And that's what our conversation. And friends, I got to share this. Jason, I'm going to love on you here a little bit. Dr. Goldman sent us an advanced copy of her book to read. And many of you know me. I'm a reader. This is my real library. This is not a background. When I tell you, Jason was the one that read the book first, sent me the notes, sent me the highlights, was like, I think we should ask this question, this is how we should. I mean, I'm sorry, who are you? Who are you, Mr. Smith? So, Dr. Rachel, thank you for converting Jason to the fabulous world of reading books and engaging on such a deep level when it comes to the personal work of being a bariatric patient.
So I literally have tears in my eyes right now. Because as it's an advanced reader copy, this book isn't out there yet, although maybe it will be by the time people are listening. And it's so crazy to me to hear, and I'm just ecstatic and thrilled. So thank you. That means the world to me.
Yeah, no, it was something to me that when I started it, I kind of was like, I can glance through, kind of figure out kind of what's, get some cliff notes kind of thing. No, I was page to page. I was like, no, we're not doing that. Cause I like the first day that we had got it, I'd messaged April. She was like, I'm like 60 something pages in. And she's like, what? And I was like, oh yeah, no, I couldn't. No, there was no just reading a couple pages and stopping or glancing through. I was like, is every page connected to the next page, connected to something that was happening in real time for me? So it was such a connected, like, it was like connective tissue at that point. So I just had to blow all the way through it. And it was, yeah, it was absolutely amazing.
That's amazing. I should have had you edit it while you were doing that because I just finished my last set of proofreads and you probably caught stuff I didn't since you read word for word and I did not. But that's amazing.
It, Jason, that word connective tissue. Oh my
Yeah,
gosh. Right. So in BariNation, so we have this podcast, right? We support people who have the disease of obesity, and we really focus on supporting people in the moment, day to day, because that's where we see the gaps are. So Jason and I both lead in BariNation as peer hosts, and of course we work with therapists and surgeons, and we do all kinds of education in the community. I think what struck Jason and I so instantaneously on page one was these are the things, the skills and the education that we deliver every day in BariNation. And we understand the importance of not only knowing it, but then having the safe place to practice. So to see your work resonating in the work that we're doing in the community, that's how we knew these are the tools that everybody needs. You need to learn them. You need to know them. You need to have conversations to understand how to apply them in your actual lived experience and continue to practice them time and time again. And your book is cover to cover a toolkit, a manual for how we do the work when life happens. And as you said before we hit recording, practice the work before life happens so that when things get crazy and out of control, you have a very clear path forward to continue to strive for your goals and get through it.
exactly. Yeah, and that's my goal or my hope of this book is that people will pick it up and use it and realize, wow, this is a book I can come back to when life happens. Like as you're hitting different phases of your life, as you're going through something different, you might think, oh, maybe that tool or that, tip wasn't really relevant then to me, but now it is. And it
Mhm.
really is. I want it to be a tool in everybody's toolboxes. And I talk about building your toolbox in this book. And I hope that the book is part of that toolbox to come back to because life is happening. If we want to like it or not, it is happening. And I really want to equip everybody with the tools that they need so they can navigate life a little bit easier, a little bit less stressed. And I like to say just a little bit less sucky, like life can just be tough and sucky sometimes. And hopefully this helps in that process.
I think it absolutely will. Before we dive in, Dr. Rachel, will you take a moment and introduce yourself to our friends and listeners and watchers who've never met you before?
Yes. And I'm so sorry we didn't do that before. We just jumped right in and got so excited.
That's okay.
So everybody that's listening, hello, I'm Dr. Rachel Goldman. I'm a clinical psychologist out of New York City. I'm also a speaker and now author. I'm also clinical assistant professor in the Department of Psychiatry at the NYU Grossman School of Medicine, where I continue to supervise psychiatry residents on CBT, cognitive behavior therapy, as well as provide didactics related to obesity and the treatment of obesity from a behavioral health perspective.
Quite well rounded in the most amazing sense.
Thank
And
you.
it really has been amazing to see how you are helping people who are thinking that these tools are only relevant for one tiny specific piece of life. You're asking them to step back and say, no, no, no. Once you learn this tool, you can apply it to so many different facets of your life. This is not just for people with the disease of obesity. This is not just for overachievers or high functioning people. This is for everybody. And they are actually tools that you can safely return to time and time again once you understand them and practice them.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think it's also important to remember that not every tool is going to work every time. And not every tool is made to work for everybody, right? Sometimes we even need a combination of tools. And that's why it's so important that we have a toolbox full of tools readily available because one may not work in this certain situation, right? Maybe you'll come back to it later in a different situation and you'll want to try it again. And it's also why practicing them is so important. I always use this example, but it's like, you're in the middle of something very stressful and you might remember, oh, Dr. Rachel said to do diaphragmatic breathing. But in the moment, you're like, oh my God, what's diaphragmatic breathing? What do I do? How do I research it? I've never done it before. Do I do this? Do I do that? That's what we don't want to happen, right? We want it to be like, oh, this is a good time to pull that breathing exercise out of my pocket and I'm going to do it. but you already know how to do it. So you are a pro at it. And that's where practicing is so important. It's like the tools in our tool shed or in the garage. You don't want them to just get rusty and we don't remember how to use them. We want to practice them regularly. We want to use them regularly. So when we really need them, they're clean, they're fresh, they're ready to go.
Well, and it's good that you mentioned, you talk about, not every tool is going to work for everybody. So the word that we used in BariNation this last year was relentless curiosity. So, being curious is
I
one
love
thing, but
that.
being relentlessly curious is another because the relentless side of it is what's going to keep you striving to find the one tool that's going to work perfect for that, for the exact, situation that you're talking about. Like, if you are looking for diaphragmatic breathing, you can figure that out and like if you keep looking for it, it's like if you need a screwdriver, but all you're finding is hammers and tape measures and everything else, like you just keep digging until you find what you need. And that's,
Right.
that's kind of where those two things kind of marry together. So it's good that you brought it up in that way because it's a way that we can kind of connect it to what we've been talking about before.
Oh, I love that.
I do too. I know, Jason, right when you said that, I was like, it's so true. Like, if I think about a project around my house or any project, right? You go to the toolbox and you are looking for a specific tool. And there's been times where I think I've got what I need, and then you go use it and you're like, oh, wait, nope, this was not the right one at all. You don't give up on your project. You go back to your toolbox and you find the right tool.
Exactly. Or maybe you go to that toolbox and the tool that you want isn't there. And then what do you do? Right. And that's actually why I say to have at least 3 tools in your toolbox because one may not be available to you. For instance, if my go to tool was to call you, Jason, when I was feeling stressed and you were busy and didn't answer the phone, what am I going to do? Right. That tool is not available to me right now. Or I'm a runner. What if it's like I do run in kind of all weather, but what if it's horrible weather and I don't want to run? That tool is not available to me. I got to figure something out. So again,
Mhm.
like it's yes, we could keep searching and look for the tool and or in the moment, sometimes we just got to make it work and be like, all right, this isn't working. What can I do instead? And that actually gets to something I talk about a lot in the book, which is growth mindset versus fixed mindset, being more flexible in our thinking, getting away from this all or nothing thinking like this is the tool. And if I don't have it, I can't do it. Like I give up. No, we don't give up. We look elsewhere. We think a little bit outside the box. What can I do differently? Kind of shifting that mindset to be a little more flexible. Again, in all areas of our life is super helpful.
Well, and that's the best part about that is like when we talk about because the all or nothing thinking, like we are so conditioned to give up on ourselves so easily and just be like, "Ah, well, that's fine. We'll figure it out later." And
Or like it
later
didn't work this time, done.
exactly.
It's not going to
Yeah,
work. I'm a
exactly.
failure.
Yeah, it's never
Such a
gonna it's
common
never gonna
one.
work. So how are we gonna
Right.
so it's kinda like trying to learn how to fly the plane when it's going down. It's like that's not the time. Like the pre-work is so important to figure it out. Like it's just not yeah. And the mindset shift of not giving up on yourself is huge. And, one of the
Huge.
things that when you had talked about, self-care and how important those types of things are and just kind of the mindset around kind of including yourself in all these things, um, it resonated with me in such a way that has adjusted the way that I approach, including myself in things. Because self-care doesn't mean selfish. It means, it doesn't mean all me, it means me too. And to add that, include that, it's just not something that a lot of us are able to do until we start doing some of this work and uncovering some things. And that's one of the amazing things that this book, had led me to do was start to kind of reframe a lot of the thinking around how I kind of include myself in the things that I would give up on myself for before. So
Yeah. I'm like speechless. Like I again, like hearing people say how change, like this book has changed, right? The way that you do things, the way that you see things, the way that you view life is just literally a gift to me. And is why I wrote this book, to really be able to get these tools to more people. I realized working at the hospital years ago, there were days I saw 12 clients a day. And I remember being like, this is amazing. I'm helping all these people. But I was like, I'm helping one behind a closed door, behind another one, behind another
Mhm.
closed door. And I was like, I
Mhm.
really want to shout these things from the rooftop. I used to joke, I wanted my messages on a billboard. And then I created my Instagram account. And then I was like, well, could be a book now. But like, really, it's, I just want these tools and cognitive behavior therapy and the basics of cognitive behavioral therapy to be more accessible to people. Of course, this book is not in any way a replacement for therapy, but it really does provide a lot of the tools in what I think a very easy, approachable, accessible way. And it just makes my day, makes my year. Jason, to hear you say that. So thank you.
And when I say that man is hard-headed, I mean, his cells are made of granite. It's that kind of hard-headedness. And it has been a real gift for us as friends, and then for us, leading and being in a community to watch people do these in real time. The theme that also comes up for us, and I see it in your book too, is that growth versus fixed mindset, right? We could learn the tool, we could try it, it doesn't work, and we stop doing it. But it could take a lifetime for us to really understand and embrace it. And I know with Jason, with your journey, even with my journey, there have been things along the way where I'm like, I can't figure this out. And I do give up on myself, but it's for a short time or shorter time. And I do feel like when you have these tools, you know that you can come back to them again and again. And when it comes to that growth versus fixed mindset, and Jason, I don't know if this is going to resonate with you, but I think I was so beat down by the disease of obesity for so many years that even though I think I did have a growth mindset, it became very fixed because everything I tried, nothing worked. Right. And it's like time after time after time, when you start accumulating these pieces of evidence that say that diet didn't work, this pill didn't work, that workout didn't work, nothing worked. So the fixed mindset almost becomes what is proven by your evidence. And it's so hard to bust out of that fixed mindset to growth mindset. And even after surgery, I mean, Jason, it took you a year and a half, 2 years to make the decision to have revisional bariatric surgery after the disease was present and active again. So, Dr. Goldman, do you see this kind of in your patients, and do you see the struggle between fixed and growth mindset in the obesity community?
Absolutely. And, and I want to just also remind everybody listening that the tools that we're talking about aren't easy, right? Like, I think what you
Mm,
just said, just reminded me to say that because, I talk about them in a way that it sounds easy, but they're not. And I acknowledge that it takes work and it takes practice. And in particular, I think people who struggle with obesity or who live with obesity I don't like to generalize at all, but it is very common to have all or nothing thinking, first of all, for anybody, but also for
mhm,
people who have kind of been on a diet, off a diet their whole life, right? Like
mhm,
right away, if you think of a diet, that's all or nothing thinking. It's like, I can have this, I can't have that. And if I have that, I failed and I'm off my diet. That's a great example
mhm,
of all or nothing thinking, right? Which
mhm,
is a fixed mindset. Then gets to, well, this didn't work and that didn't work and that didn't work. Something must be wrong with me, right? Why is nothing working for me? Especially now with social media, we see, whatever people are doing or not doing, and we start comparing and they're like, well, if they could do it and I can't, what's wrong with me? So, and I like that you had said examining the evidence because that's what we do in CBT. And in that kind of situation, you could examine the evidence and be like, yeah, something's wrong with me because I've tried it all and it's not working. But that's fine. Maybe let that be the automatic thought that happens first. You can still have that thought. But the key is how long are you going to stay in that thought? And what are you going to do with that thought next? So that's where our thoughts,
mhm,
emotions, and behaviors are linked. You can have the thought. We all have these automatic unhelpful thoughts. The key is identifying that was unhelpful. And how do we know if it's unhelpful? I talk this through in the book, but how do we know that's
mhm.
unhelpful? Because it doesn't feel good, right? Like right there. If it doesn't feel good, it is unhelpful. It makes you feel like
Yeah.
crap. It makes you feel like a failure. Nope, that is unhelpful. And then like, okay, I just had an unhelpful thought. Now what do I want to do with it? Right? We can either forget about it and just kind of move on, or we can tweak it, we can reframe it, we can challenge it. And this is where examining the evidence in a slightly different way works. So, kind of like, where's the evidence that I'm a failure, right? Okay, maybe this diet didn't work. Maybe this didn't work. Maybe that didn't work. I like to flip the script on that one and be like, that diet failed you. You did not
Wow.
fail, right? Just like in the bariatric
Mhm,
surgery. When I used to work in the bariatric surgery department, which I didn't mention before, but for 5.5 years, I was the senior psychologist at Bellevue Hospital's obesity bariatric surgery department. And I remember correcting other healthcare professionals, even to this day, when I speak to other scientists and clinicians, I say, no, the surgery, I mean, the patient did not fail the surgery. The surgery failed the patient. The diet
Mhm.
failed the patient, right? Whatever it is failed you. And then another unhelpful thought, or what we call cognitive distortion, is called jumping to conclusions. From that, you could jump to the conclusion, well, if I failed this diet or the diet failed me, I must be a failure. But no,
Mhm.
again, where's the evidence that you're a failure? You probably could look over the course of your life, and this is what I would do in therapy with you. I would actually be like, let's think back to other times that you didn't fail. Let's identify areas of your life that you did not fail. So we can't jump to the conclusion that just because this diet didn't work or that you can't lose weight on your own, because that's hard anyways,
Mhm.
but just because
Mhm.
of that doesn't mean you're a failure. But
Yep.
again, it takes work and it takes that kind of reflection questions to get there. And then the key, though, or rather the greatest part is our brain is kind of wired a certain way. It's learned behavior. But the best thing about learned behavior is that we can unlearn and relearn or learn something different. So, with that work, what we're actually doing is we're rewiring our brain to start thinking differently. And that takes
Mhm.
time and it takes repetition and it takes practice and
Mhm.
consistency. But in
Mhm.
time, so April, in time, you might jump to that thought. You might pause and then be like, nope, actually, that's not true. And
Yep.
that's where the magic happens when you actually then get
Yep.
to that point. And it'll take less and less time because you won't have to go through the whole process of let me examine the evidence, let me look back to my whole life, let me see this, let me see that. Your then automatic thought might still be I'm a failure, but for a moment, and you'll be like, that's my brain lying to me. Yeah, I'm
Mhm.
actually not a failure.
Yeah, because
Mhm.
jumping to conclusions is my favorite leg day exercise. Um, Uh, it like, the thing about, like, when I was reading the book and I was thinking about it, and I'm like, we fill in our own blanks to the worst of the worst all the time when
Oh,
we're trying
yeah.
to do that, like, that automatically, we will fill every crack and crevice with some nonsense that we will make up in our heads because 'cause we're just like, "Oh,
Our
no.
brain is not kind to us.
No."
Really?
And I connected with because you and I were talking in messages before before we got to this point, and it was, when I said the loudest voice you'll hear all day is the one inside your head, make sure it says kind things to you, and you said you say something similar, and I caught it in the book, and I was like, "There it is." I was like, "Yeah," because
Yeah.
it does, like, it connects, it's basically the same thing, but it's
Yeah.
so loud in there, and if we allow it to continue to fill those blanks in that way, like, it's just, like, it's never we're never gonna crawl out of the hole that we create for ourselves.
Right. And
Yep.
that, again, why it's so important to acknowledge that our thoughts, emotions, and behaviors are linked. Because if you
Yep.
continue to speak unkindly to yourself, you start believing it, you start feeling it, and then that impacts what you do next. So if you think you're a failure, when the alarm clock goes off in the morning, you might be like, well, it's not even worth me waking up today. I'm going to stay in bed. Right there, that one thought just changed the course of your entire day. Or you're like, actually, you know what? Today feels kind of icky. That's all right. I'm having a not a great day, but I'm going to still get up. I'm going to do it. I'm going to see what the day's going to bring. Again, one thought changed the complete course of the day.
The two things that we hear Jason say the most in BariNation is just what he just said, right? Like you need to be careful about what you say to yourself because it's the loudest voice and you got to listen to it. And the second thing that you're going to hear Jason say all the time is no ma'am or no sir, because somebody will say something that is not helpful for them, right? Or it's negative. They're sharing a struggle and they're taking a lot of the ownership of that struggle on themselves. And Jason is always the first one in our community to go, oh, no ma'am, no sir. Let's really see if this is true or not. And many times you need that person to be that mirror, or you need the community to give you permission to pause and check yourself, right?
Yeah,
In BariNation, we call it catch it, check it, change it.
love that.
So we can help you catch it. But if you're not saying it aloud to other people, you're kind of talking into a void. So I think some of this disconnect that comes into when we say practice and use these tools, yes, you can read the book and you can internalize it and you can know it up here, but oftentimes you need somebody else in your life and in your world to be that mirror and to go, oh, I just heard you say something that doesn't appear from my perspective to be very helpful. That seems kind of hurtful. Is that really what you mean? Because I see evidence to the contrary of that. I see you showing up here. I see you sharing. I see you doing all of these things. That's the practice part of this.
Yeah. And that's actually similar to one of my best hacks, which is, would you say that to a friend? What you just
Right.
said to yourself, would you say that to a friend? Right. So we could just kind of
Mhm.
reverse what you just said internally. Right. And even when you were saying that, Jason says, like, no, ma'am, no, sir. I was also thinking, like, start saying that to yourself. Right. Like,
Mhm.
no, no, nope, nope. That's not true. That's actually not a true statement. So it is that self-talk is so important. And what Jason was referring to before, that I might misquote myself, but what I tend to say is that you need to be mindful of the words you're using when you speak to yourself because you are listening. And the self-talk is so important for that reason.
I'm pretty sure you say that verbatim. I highlighted that quote last night. I think I even sent Jason a picture of it this morning.
I think I did say it verbatim, and I did say it actually. I will never forget. Um, I've had a few appearances with Oprah, and one of the ones at the very end, she was like, "What are your parting words?" Or like, if you had to say one thing, what is it to the audience? And I felt like I gave them all my tips already. And that one, I just like was like, "This is it," and that was it. So I also have it like on replay in my head because I've heard it myself say it so many times now.
Right.
But it is so true. I mean, we live in our brain. Our brain lives in us, however we want to think about it. Um, and there's so many thoughts that we have every day, but we are listening. So we have to be really careful and really mindful of what we're saying. And again, we all have automatic unhelpful thoughts. Like the goal here is not to completely eliminate them. That is not realistic, which I know we're going to
Mhm.
get to one of my favorite topics soon, which is related. But it's not realistic to be like, I am never going to have an unhelpful thought again. Like, actually, that's a kind of distortion within itself, that never
Mhm.
word. But what would be more realistic is that I'm going to learn to identify them. I'm going to learn the tools to tweak them. And I'm going to work on making myself talk a little kinder, right? Like, it doesn't need to be so all or nothing. It doesn't need to be so super positive or really, really mean to ourselves either. We need to find that balance because if you're
Mhm.
saying something to yourself that you don't believe, even if it's super positive, it's not going to work. Like you have to actually say to yourself something that you hear yourself saying, something that you see yourself doing. And if not, again, it's just, as I like to call it, like kind of toxic positivity with a cute little bow on it. And I said in the intro of my book, that's not what this book is.
Yes, exactly. Well, and that's actually what, what started you and I talking in the first place was that quote about that because we talked about, kind of reframing for positive things and trying to do positive thinking and all that stuff. And the more you talk about it kind of in your own mind, like when you're talking about it, you're kind of like, well, yeah, but not every day. Like, I'm not going to wake up every day and be like, today's the day. And it's like, because today might not be the day. And I'm just
That's
lying to
okay.
myself at that point because I kind of what we'll do is we build things up in our mind to be this insurmountable mountain. And you talk about in the book how, taking things little bits at a time and starting to kind of build this framework and do these things because otherwise you just look at this mountain of stuff and go, how am I going to get that done? There's no way I'm going to get all that done. And if you take
Mhm.
little bits at a time, it's, the old adage, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. You just take it and like piece it out and do what you got to do. But we talk, when that toxic positivity quote resonated with me in such a way because it can be that way. If you're somebody who is really dealing with an emotional and mental, just a breakdown of sorts, and somebody's like, "Oh, you just got to be happy," and you're like, "What?" It's like, "No, not right now. I don't
Not
like
helpful.
this is not, yeah, you're not helping me at all. But thanks. Like I get what you're trying to do." So, um, it really like reading through the book through that section really helped me to connect like what these little things can be that can get in the way of any kind of progress that we're trying to make just in that way. Can you talk a little bit about, your take on toxic positivity and what that looks like?
Oh, yeah. Do you have a lot of time? No, I'm kidding.
Yeah,
uh,
all the time.
no, actually, it's funny because it's actually probably super short, my take on it, which is that I don't like it. I don't think it's helpful at all. And for people listening that may not really know what toxic positivity is, although you gave a great example, Jason, is this idea that everything needs to be positive. This this all vibes. I mean, rather like positive vibes only, right? Which it's funny
Mm-hmm.
because I wore my When Life Happens shirt, but a lot of podcasts I wear this other shirt that says all feelings are welcome. Um,
Oh,
and it's funny because 20 years ago, I had a shirt that said positive vibes only. And I wish I
I
could
saw
find,
that in the book.
yes, and I wish I could
Mm-hmm.
find it,
Yeah.
but I can't. I probably burnt, like throw it out. I would like to burn it, but I probably throw it out or donated it. But that's what this idea is. And there's lots of examples we could use, which is like, well, it could be worse, right? Like not helpful.
Uh-huh.
Or at least this didn't happen, not helpful. So toxic positivity literally ignores other emotions and only puts emphasis on the positives. And we are humans that have a lot of emotions. And I think it's really important. Yes, I'm a therapist, I'm a psychologist, but it's really important that we acknowledge that we have a wide range of emotions because not every day is going to be a happy day. Not every
No.
moment of our life is going to be happy and positive. And when somebody says something to you, or you say to yourself, well, it could be worse. At least this didn't happen, or positive vibes only. That's completely ignoring your experiences and your emotions.
Yep.
And one day that's probably going to catch up to you. But it's also just, I think, not being authentic, right? Like, yeah, I can put on a happy face all the time and be like, yeah, I slept great last night. By the way, I did not, you know? Um, but that's life. And we need to be real with ourselves, with others, and I think it also creates the space for people to really open up and feel safe as well to
Yep.
kind of not jump to all of that. And oftentimes people do participate. Sorry, these are new and they're falling off of me. But
Oh,
many times people do kind of participate in positive, toxic positivity. I think because they don't know what to say, right? It's like
yeah.
maybe a difficult thing just happened, and you're kind of caught off guard, and you're like, well, it could be worse, right? And that's like the first thing that comes to mind. But again, that just minimizes that person's experiences, and if you're saying it to yourself as well.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think Jason and I kind of had a mind meld over this because I think the part of your book that we have talked about the most between the two of us is toxic positivity. And this connection that I'm thinking I'm making is we see the impacts of toxic positivity every single day in our community and just in people who are fighting the disease of obesity in general. And I feel like the disease knows that toxic positivity is a tool it can use against you
Mm.
to keep you from treating the disease. And here's how I get there. We have people all the time join BariNation and they don't jump into a live event. They don't go to a support group. They don't go to a class. They don't go to a meetup. And sometimes I don't even feel comfortable posting on our like social thread on the share here feed. And I'll reach out to them and I'm like, what's the deal? You joined, you are here for a purpose, you need help, but we don't see you in the community. And almost every single time they tell us, well, I'm just really struggling right now. And I don't want to bring the vibe down, or I don't want to take up the space with my problems and this or that. And Jason, literally, we're like, oh my God, it's literally why we made this space because all feelings, all emotions are welcome here. And we are not going to pretend that every day, every moment is wonderful. And in fact, we're going to tell you there's a lot of really horrible spots that we have to stop along this bariatric journey.
Yeah.
But it's so hard to get people to step out of that toxic positivity thinking and step into the realistic thinking of what it is. And I don't know what the break is, but it's like, guys, obesity is using toxic positivity against you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
So, it's funny because the story you just shared, again, I have in the book, but about when I worked at the hospital and clients used to call me and say, I'm thinking about canceling because I'm
mm,
really struggling, or because I didn't do the recommendation you told me to do, or I didn't try this. And literally my response is, I'm so glad you called and shared that with me. And this is the time to come to therapy. Like that time when they're saying to you, I am really struggling. I don't want to bring the group down. That's your signal that like this is the time for you to show up. Like you need it the
mhm.
most. And I think a lot of people are afraid to ask for help or to share what they're struggling with out of shame, unfortunately. But asking for help is brave, right? And like, newsflash, we all need help, right? Like, we can't do it on our own. As humans, we are not made to be living life in a silo on our own in a bubble, right? Like, we are
Mhm.
supposed to be, I mean, think back to years ago with villages, right? Like, we need to create our own village. And I think BariNation has done that for your
Yeah.
community, which is absolutely incredible. But that's what we need. We need support. We need connection. We need that village. And if you are thinking that, I'm struggling, I'm not going to show up, it's actually, let this be a reminder that this is the day that you need to show up. And that is self care right there. Like, my simplest definition of self care is doing something for you. Literally, eating is an act of self care, survival, right? Sleeping, showing up to your group, showing up is an act of self care. I actually would even go as far as saying anybody listening to this right now is participating in self care. Yes,
Thank you. We say
yes,
this all the time,
yeah.
right? We say this
It
all the
is.
time.
It absolutely is, because you are learning, hopefully, learning something new about yourself or learning a new tool. And again, like, that is the time that we need it. And I'm going to go in a little deeper about other things in the book for a moment about self care, because, a lot of people think self care is like a bubble bath or going to a massage, this or that. Really, self care tools or practices are the exact same tools that I talk about that we use for stress management. But self care tools are the ones that we use on a regular basis. Like, if you don't really need them, it's self care, because self care really, I think, should be preventative care. We are participating in these things because we matter in order to build ourselves up and help us prepare for when life happens. And then when life happens, we use the same tools, but as stress management tools. So you don't need two different toolboxes, right? Like, it's one toolbox that you turn to, but one might be something you do on a regular basis, like joining a BariNation group, right? You do it
Mhm.
regularly. That's going to lower your stress level right away. Wherever you are, boom, it brings it down a little bit. But now you really need it. You're just more intentional about it. You are showing up because you really need it. You're showing up regularly, but now you're more intentional.
Yeah, those are my biggest yes ma'am, no ma'am, or no sir moments are when people, say things like that. "Well, I've taken up too much time already, like, I don't wanna talk." I don't wanna bring because I have, well, one of the more kind of a looser, laid back vibe groups in Berry Nation that people come to and like to just kind of hang out. And I tell people, like, people, "Oh, well, after everybody's gone and shared their happy stuff, I don't even wanna talk about." No, 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 like, we hold space for everyone, like, we're talking it doesn't matter, like, the happy stuff is cool, that like, what you're going through is not gonna bring down anybody else's happy stuff, it just helps boost up what you've got going. Like, if you've got
Yeah.
something that somebody's gonna resonate with, or is possibly gonna give you a tool to kinda help you get out of that situation, like, that's what we need to talk about. Like, this isn't a time for you to shrink or shy away, this is time for you to dive in harder, because that's what we're here for. You have, sometimes 12, 15 people that are sitting here waiting to help you, through this situation. So please, don't
Yeah.
shy away. And some people, it depends on sometimes if they are not feeling like sharing, or if it's something personal or whatever, but sometimes they'll tell you, like, just being here around you guys has been enough to kind of help boost my mood,
Yeah.
and I can look at things a little better, and it may not be as bad as it seems. But that's them coming to that conclusion versus us forcing that conclusion on them and saying, "Oh, you just gotta
Exactly.
look at the silver lining." Like, well, sometimes there's not a silver lining.
Right. Yeah. And actually, I love that you said that, because I do think it's important that people kind of check in with themselves. And there's certain questions I say that are really helpful. And one of them is, what do I need right now? And for some
Mm.
people, it may be showing up, listening, So I actually led the support groups in the bariatric surgery department for those years that I was there, weekly support groups. And I remember a lot of people would come and just, like, when we go around introducing everybody, they're like, I'm just here to listen, right? And that's
Mhm.
totally fine. And what I love is by the end of the group, or maybe the next group, they're like jumping right in, right?
Yep.
Or I think another reminder is, when you share your struggles, you might be going through it and sharing it, and other people may also be going through it. And by you sharing it, makes people feel less alone. And
Mhm.
so many times you're like, oh my God, that happened to me. Or I did something similar and this is what worked for me. Maybe it won't work for you, but this is what worked for me. So it also gives people, again, that kind of common feeling that we are in this together. And a lot of people might be thinking it and just not sharing it. So I think
Yeah.
so many times we're all thinking the same thing to a degree, but like
Oh,
it's the
yeah.
one brave person that speaks up and is like, I'm really struggling with this. Everybody's like, oh my God, thank God she said that because I am too, right? So
Yes.
I think it's
Yes.
important to remember those things too.
It has to be that balanced approach, right? And the answer is not toxic positivity. And you said it earlier, Dr. Rachel, right? Like we reach the point in our journeys or life, whatever, and it's like, this is not working for me anymore. I'm at the end of my rope and I've tried everything and I've done everything. But it can be really hard to let go of the thing that you have been, right, fixated on or trained or, right? Like, so what are things that we can do as people and patients to kind of recognize when we're leaning into toxic positivity and we want to lean out of it?
Yeah. So, again, it goes back to the words we're using when we speak to ourselves. And I think being mindful of the words we're using. And there's a difference between toxic positivity and being, like a healthy optimism, right? Like, because there is science to positive psychology. There is a science there. There is really a thing called positive psychology. And there's evidence that, positivity can be helpful in many ways. But
Mhm.
again, it's being, I like to think of everything as on a spectrum. You have toxic positivity on one end of the spectrum, extreme, right? Then you have like super negativity. I don't know, I just made up that term, but super negativity on the other end of the spectrum, the other extreme, right? What tends to work in life is something in between. And I think in between is this healthy sense of optimism, right? You can be hopeful. I want you to be hopeful, right? That's important to be hopeful, to be optimistic to a degree that's also realistic, right? Toxic positivity is unrealistic. Super negativity is just not helpful, but something in the middle is more realistic. Again, if I said to you, like, it could be worse, or I'm trying to think of a better example with the unrealistic. You know what? I love to use body image examples. It's toxic positivity, kind of also. Body positivity, for instance. If you put this pressure on yourself to show up loving your body every single day and you
Mm.
don't, you are going to feel like something's wrong with you. What is wrong with me?
Mhm.
Why don't I love my body today? I'm doing this, I'm doing that. What's wrong with me? Nothing's wrong with you, right? It is more realistic, though, to accept that I'm not going to show up loving every inch of my body every single day. I don't even think there's
Yeah.
anybody that does. That is just not human, to be honest.
Mhm.
And that is
Mhm.
more realistic to be like, I'm on a body acceptance journey, right? Or I'm
Yeah.
embracing body neutrality, which is looking at the
Mhm.
function of our bodies, getting away from the appearance of our bodies. But if you have an expectation and you're putting pressure on yourself that one day you're going to wake up and just love everything you see, that's toxic positivity.
Mhm. Mm. It's toxic positivity and unrealistic expectations absolutely making the most horrific situation.
Right.
Because, I mean, think about, I mean, Jason, you and I both, we went into surgery thinking, I'm just going to eat less, I'm going to lose weight, everything's going to be fine. And,
Sounds great, but
weeks,
no.
Right. Sounds amazing.
heal. Yeah, no, sounds great. Yeah, if that's happened to anybody, please let us know
Right,
because
right,
that has not been our lived experience. Like, oh my
right,
God. But it's those unrealistic expectations. And if we're alone and we're isolated, we're not going to understand that it is an unrealistic expectation, or we're not going to see how that toxic positivity is preventing us from moving forward and treating the disease in the way that we need to.
right. Right. Well,
But,
right. And it goes to the like shoulds, right? Like I should be
oh,
happier.
yeah.
Like who says you should be
Mm,
happier? Right? Do you want to be
yeah.
happier? That's different. Then we can set a goal, we can make a plan, we can make it happen. But who
Mhm.
says you should? Just like I should be losing weight because I did XYZ. Well, really? Should you be? Because obesity, weight, all of those things is a little bit more, very, very more complicated. I'm going to say kind of
Mhm.
said little as a joke, but like is much more complicated and more complex than just that, right? So the
Yes.
shoulds is another one of those cognitive distortions or unhelpful thoughts that actually keep us stuck where we are.
Yep.
And again, going back to the book, that's the key to this book. It is the idea that our thoughts can actually keep us stuck. And if we don't acknowledge the fact that we grow, we evolve, life happens, what worked for us before actually is probably not going to be working for us again, right? Like it's not even that it might not, I don't know. It's probably not. Like I am a different person than I was before I had my children, right? Like all
Mm.
areas of my life. We are like I was a different person yesterday than I was today. Things change and we have to again flexible, growth mindset. You have to be open to that change and accept that, okay, maybe what you did when you were 20 worked for you. Well, now maybe it's not working for you. And that doesn't mean that something's wrong with you. That means that you have evolved. We also know more today than we did then. But it just means that you got to go back to the drawing board and you got to figure it out, right? There's nothing wrong with you. That's life. And again, that's the idea of this book is that nothing's wrong with you. What worked for you then isn't supposed to work for you now. Just like the jeans that you wore in high school are not supposed to fit you anymore. They're not supposed to. Get rid of them, right? It's not that anything's wrong with you, but it's the same mentality that, it's just adapting this. Okay, life is happening. I'm changing. I got to work on it and I'm going to figure this out as opposed to I'm a failure. What's wrong with me? Nothing's working. Totally different feel.
No, absolutely. And one of the other things that really kind of shocked me in the book that I wasn't kind of prepared for was when you talked about imposter syndrome and how it can actually help you versus hurt you. Like, because when we think about it, like we talk about it all the time, like in our journeys and our patient lived experience of how we feel like, just like when we speak, like we've spoken at different, events and things. And it's kind of like you get up there and you're like, well, who am I like to talk about anything? Like it was the worst for me at the height of my regain. I talk about it all the time. Like I went to an award show and had to stand on stage and there was no podium and I wanted to leave because I was like, I can't hide behind anything and people are going to see that I look different now. And who am I to be up here talking to anybody when I look like that? Cause I was like, when we talk about that, I told myself flat, I was like, I've failed this whole process. So who am I to stand up here and tell anybody anything? And,
Yet the process failed you.
exactly. And it took my wife and my surgeon to get me out of that mindset. But you talk about the imposter syndrome in a completely different way than I ever even could fathom. So, I wanted to at least address that with you too, and kind of get your take on that because that was phenomenal for me.
Yeah, I love that you brought that up because I tend to forget about that part. Yet it comes up with so many of my clients, imposter syndrome, or we hear about it on social media all the time. And it's funny
Yeah.
because whenever I see posts about it, I want to comment about what I wrote in the book. And I'm like, "Ugh, it's like a whole conversation and it's this. And I don't know if I want to like ruin the vibe of their post here, you know. So I think different people look at it differently. And it goes back to, again, our words matter. And if the way you're thinking about imposter syndrome is working for you, go for it. Like, keep doing it, however you want to think about it. But what I learned literally on the first day of graduate school, I was just talking to my a previous graduate school professor about this even. I was like, you guys are in my book and specifically in here. The first day of graduate school for my doctorate in clinical psychology, they talked about imposter syndrome. And they were like, you are probably thinking you have imposter syndrome. How are you here? How did you get here? Should I be here? Should I belong here? How did I get into this school? All these things. And she literally said, the professor that day said, the day that you don't have imposter syndrome is the day you should retire. I'm going to say that again because I think it's powerful. The day you don't have imposter syndrome is the day you should retire. And I use that as what I talk about is eustress. EUSTRESS is the positive stress. It is the stress that motivates us to do a little bit more, to prepare a little bit more before a speaking engagement, right? It's the stress that keeps us up a little bit more. So yes, am I an expert in this area? Sure. But if you told me you were going to ask me about certain research studies and this and that or whatever, I probably would have wanted to prepare a little bit to make sure I had it top of mind, right? So that's not because I'm an imposter and I don't know what I'm talking about. That's because I want to be prepared, right? So the day that you think that you don't have that anymore is the day you should retire because we're always learning, we're always evolving. I mean, research and science is always happening. I'm giving a presentation next week on obesity and the behavioral health provider, and I need to update my citations. I can't just assume I know everything. So it's kind of this example of that, we do know what we're doing and we do belong, and we should probably prepare a little bit more. As much as I don't like the word should. So it just kind of keeps us relevant. It keeps us up to speed. Like I get the question all the time, are you ever going to stop seeing clients, right? People think, with all my speaking engagements and everything. And I actually, in a way, this is me keeping my check-in with myself in a way. First of all, my answer would be no anyways. I love seeing my clients and it just gives me, something different. But my clients helped me get to where I am today. I am able to be relevant. I am able to understand, Jason and April, what you guys are talking about, not because I lived it, but because I've
Mhm.
seen thousands of clients who have struggled with obesity. Thousands when I went to the
Mhm.
hospital, literally thousands. So if I give that up, I will feel like an imposter, but in a different way. I will be like, I don't belong here because I don't even know what's going on in the world anymore related to this because I'm not up in it. So, yeah, I guess that's my take on it. I know. April, you look like you're like mind blown. Like, what did she just say? It is okay to have imposter syndrome. That's what I said. I gave you that permission that it is okay to feel like you don't belong on that stage, but I'm going to like do a little Oprah for a moment. Backstage, before I stepped on stage for the second time with Oprah, she said to all of us, "You are here for a reason today." I put this in the book. You are here for a
Mhm.
reason. And whatever that reason is, when you get on that stage or when I give you the opportunity, make sure you say it. And actually, every speaking engagement I've had since with a panel, everybody's been anxious in the back. What am I, da da da. And I always just at one point say, take a breath. And I want you to remind yourself, you are meant to be here. Somebody thought you deserved to be here. Now believe it yourself. So again, that imposter syndrome is good to a degree. All things in life are on a spectrum, bringing it full circle to a degree. If the imposter syndrome is keeping you up all night, not just studying a little bit more and going back to bed, but keeping you up all night, really getting you down, making you feel hopeless, making you feel, all these different things, then yes, maybe it's not helpful. But a little bit of imposter syndrome is not a bad thing.
That's actually what led me to prepare for today a little more than I would normally. So I read that part of
Look
the
at
book and
that.
yeah, and I was like, let's see
April's
use
like
this.
blown away again.
She's like, let's use this. Yeah, I actually was, putting the tool to work.
I
She's speechless.
She's proud of me and wants to kill me all at the same time.
He knows me well. He knows me well. I'm a little blown away. I'm a little uncomfortable. And because
But you're in a safe
but
space.
I'm yes. Yeah, my uncomfortability is coming with two very closely held beliefs about myself and my role in the world, and now they are clashing with one another, and I don't know what to do with it
And if I was your
because
therapist, which I'm not, but if I was, I'd be like, let's talk about that.
I swear to God, this this is always Jason's quest is to get me to open up on this podcast or cry or be emotional, and our
Well, I already cried,
guests,
so welcome. It's all welcome.
oh
All
God,
feelings are welcome.
all
All
feelings are
cried.
welcome. And I guess what I'm trying to understand or what's battling in me right now is I absolutely logically understand what you're saying. It's good to go into a situation acknowledging I'm probably not the smartest person in the room. I have a lot to learn, but they've asked me here for a reason. I a
I
1,000%
belong
understand
here.
that.
Yeah.
And that word makes me very uncomfortable.
We'll work
Even
on it.
though we
We'll work on it.
my God, it is oh, this is so hard. Because the other thing that I have coming at me is I there is just this thing in me that's like you need to check yourself. You are not who you think you are. You are not as smart as what you think you are. There's this thing about in me that is just like you might be good at something, but you're not great at it. Or you might be here, but you're not there. So
Who
there's this
says you're not great?
constant
Who says you're not great
yes,
at it?
they
Who?
a
You?
lot of people. A lot of people.
Really? There's evidence that a lot of people don't think you're great at it? I
Not
want
check the
evidence.
stats. Not Dr.
Yeah.
Rachel would check the stats.
No, no, no. I'm imagining you don't think you're great at it. Now, again, this is not therapy, but I imagine you don't think you're not great at it, but there's no evidence that you
Oh,
aren't.
the sting.
And I would imagine you are good enough. And good enough is enough. Good enough is enough. Now, I want to just say that, I'm going to open up for a moment too. Do you really think I belong on all those stages? Come on. I have those moments. And almost not even in, I always get asked this question, like, how was it like to meet Oprah? How was it like to be on stage with her? And I actually didn't realize what I was actually doing until after the fact, I think, which is what allowed me to do what I did. Um, the first time I met her, I literally, when her producers reached out to me, I joke with them about this all the time. I was about 7 weeks postpartum with my second. Um,
Oh my goodness.
and I said, yes, I'm going to do it. And all that was on my brain was, how am I going to breastfeed? How am I going to pump? How am I going to do this? How am I going to do that? And literally, that's all I thought about. Like, I was there with my pump and I'm like, okay, where am I going to do this? How am I going to do that? And I don't think. When I came home, my husband said to me, how was it like to be with probably the number one, like, you know, expert show kind of person? And
Mm-hmm.
I was like, what do you mean? I'm like, what are you talking about? He's like, what did it feel like to be on stage with Oprah? I'm like, oh my God. I literally was like, wait, I was just with Oprah? Like, I don't think it hit me until after. And now it feels so weird, to be honest, to hear myself say this out loud, that like I had 3 conversations with Oprah, like 2 next to her on stage. Um, or even that I wrote a book. Come on. I mean, like, who am I to write a book, right? I could totally. Um, but at some point you just have to be like, all right, you know what? I'm good enough. And like, if other people don't think so, oh well. Like, I think that this is going to help people, and I really, really hope that it does. But looking back at the evidence, right? It can always go back
Yeah.
to the evidence. And like, okay, so I was on stage with Oprah. Okay, somebody asked me to be there. Okay, so maybe writing a book makes sense, right? So like, you line the things up and it all starts connecting. And you're like,
Mm-hmm.
oh yeah, like I kind of know what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah.
So you just have
Yes.
to start, again, self-talk, repetition.
Yeah.
You have to start saying to yourself, every time you guys step on that stage, or every time you have a speaking engagement, every time you question yourself, you have to remind yourself, I've done this before. That's also a good one. I've done this before. I know what I'm doing. It's going to be good
Mm-hmm.
enough, right? And using past experience is like another one of those hacks, which if you didn't have the past experience, we would use a different hack. But for you,
Yep.
you could be like, well, I've done this before and it was good enough
Mm-hmm.
then. So probably it's going to be good enough now too. And then watch, you're going to blow it away because you're putting
I
less pressure on yourself. That's why.
Yes. Yes. And logically, I get this. It
It takes time.
yes, it oh,
It takes
it's
time.
and it comes down yeah, it comes down to pride. I have been taught, for lack of a better word, right, that you can be proud, but there's this very fine line between being proud privately and being proud publicly.
Of course.
So I run into that all the time. So yeah, when I too read that imposter syndrome part of your book, I honestly was like, yeah, no. And I just
And
because
that's okay.
because of this, because literally my body was like, nope,
And
no,
you don't, you know what? And you don't have to accept it ever, or you don't have to
yeah,
accept it now, right? It may not work
yeah,
for you, right? Just like
yeah.
different tools, like that
Well,
framing may not work for you, although it probably will
yeah,
in time. But I totally hear what you're
yes,
saying because, to be honest, it's really hard for me to acknowledge my accomplishments as well. It is.
hmm
Like, when people tend to introduce me, as you saw at the beginning, I didn't mention all that stuff in my 2-second intro. But when I hear other people introducing me, I'm literally like, oh, like, who are they talking about? I'm like, oh, wait,
yeah,
that's me? Oh my God, that was me? So I
yeah,
get it. Like, I will not share that, so to say, until it
hmm
kind of comes up later in conversation. So I get it. I understand. And I think there's really something special to us that we're not that way either, you
yeah,
know?
yes. And Jason and Natalie, we talk about this all the time. People in the bariatric community who love us dearly have nicknames for us, or they call us certain things, and it's hard for us to accept that because it's this battle between the imposter and pride. Yes, we are public facing figures in the bariatric community, but we struggle every single day, every single moment, right? We show up to days where we don't feel good. We're struggling with regain or weight reoccurrence. Comorbidities have returned, right? Like the disease is progressing. So there is this like moment of hesitation of like, oh, we don't have this figured out. But what we tell
But you're never
ourselves,
going to.
Right.
Nobody
we're
does.
never going to.
Because
And
life is
obesity
different.
is a correct. And obesity is a lifelong chronic and progressive disease. So as our life
Exactly.
progresses, so does the disease. So
Right.
what we had figured out last week is not what we have figured out this week because the disease has progressed and we have progressed.
Right.
And this imposter syndrome absolutely holds people back from doing things that
Absolutely.
they would passionately like to do with their time here on earth.
Yeah.
And we talk about this all the time and I mean, literally it's top of mind for everybody. So this concept of using the imposter syndrome in a little bit of a different way, I understand. And I recently had this experience. BariNation was invited to attend ASMBS Obesity Summit. And as you know, that's invitation only. And I got that email and I sent it to Jason and I was like, I think this is a mistake. I don't think they realized that they sent it right. And I responded back and asked the question, is this for the obesity? And the response was, yes, no, we're thrilled to have you there. And we'll hope that you will be there. Well, the next person I had a conversation with was Dr. Majid, right? Bariatric surgeon. And I said, I think this was a mistake. And without skipping a beat, she instantly said, absolutely not. You have earned
Belong
your place
there.
there and you need to be there. And she said, you're wanted there.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay. So to sit in that discomfort and to have that conversation with Jason for me to relay this, and he goes, no, we're making a difference and the work is paying off and they want us there. They want you to be there to represent us. And that imposter and all that stuff kicked in. And these words are going to really help me because I got to go there in 2 weeks and sit with people who I think are much smarter and brighter and more intelligent than me. But
But let's
reminding
reframe
myself,
that.
Yeah,
Let's reframe
yeah,
that.
right.
They're
Because
not smarter or more intelligent than you. You're coming to
yeah,
the table with a different experience.
yeah,
That's it.
yes,
That's the fact. The fact is that.
yes,
Do we
yeah,
know that they're smarter than you? No, we don't know that actually. Just because they have initials after their name does not mean that they're smarter than you,
right.
but they have a different experience.
But
They might have
yeah,
different
yes,
education in medical.
right.
Like doesn't mean that they're
yeah,
more educated.
Yeah.
They have different
yes,
education. They have a
It's
different
yeah, a
experience.
different category. It's a different category, and we've never stepped on a stage that we weren't prepared to step on. We don't have any data that shows that we've ever missed
Exactly.
any of the things that we've done. Like every time we've done this and we've moved to the next thing, it's been a bigger, better, brighter. There's always something that follows it that's like we're opening more eyes every single time we do it, and that's the
yeah,
data that we have. Like, we have the
Right.
negative thoughts and things, but we have the data to back up the fact that the negative thoughts aren't true. Like, it's just us filling in the blanks
yeah,
of the stuff that we don't know.
And that
yeah,
little bit of imposter syndrome, that little bit of stress is going to make sure that you're prepared. That's all.
yeah,
But you're right. And I have it in the book actually that imposter syndrome is one of the things that really keep people stuck and not trying new things or not doing new things or other things. So
yeah,
it is, it all comes to reframing, just reframing the way that we see things and thinking, does this work for me?
yeah. Well, I certainly didn't think we would deep dive on my innermost, scariest thoughts in this conversation,
Well,
but
you never know.
oh my God, I feel better. I will say that I do feel better because that was the one part of your book that I was doing this with, and I was like,
And that's
mm,
okay. Also, like
yeah,
I actually love hearing that. Like I don't want everybody to agree with everything I have to say. Like good, disagree. Or
yeah,
or or let it make you pause and think.
yes,
Like, does
yes,
this work for me? How can I do this? How can I implement this? Or like I said, don't agree. Because again, not
yeah,
every tool in my toolbox is going to work for you. And everything that I present may not resonate. I hope most
yeah,
of it does, but challenge it. Like actually, I think
yeah,
if you challenge my book, that means that you like got something out of the book, right? Like
Right.
I want you
oh
to
yeah,
challenge your thoughts and challenge everything and think
yeah,
and pause before you do things. So in a way, that's a success.
Yeah, but you're not allowed to give up. If you're gonna challenge things and you don't think something's for you,
yeah,
you have to find a workaround. Like, there's a workaround for it
Exactly.
somewhere, you just have to
yeah,
figure out what it is
Yeah.
that's gonna work for you, because it's like,
yeah,
somebody that's never been to the gym before getting up on a Monday morning and saying, January 1st and saying, "I'm gonna go to the gym 7 days a week," it's not factual.
Not realistic.
You're not
Right.
going to the gym
Right.
5 days a week.
As I like to say, we make it work.
Yeah,
And I
absolutely.
kind of started saying that when I had my first child. And I was like, well, I'm just making it work. That's what I'm doing. Like, I want to go take a walk
Yeah.
and I have this baby with me. I'm just going to put him in the stroller and we're going to go for a walk because that's what I need right now. And that's us making it work.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Just got to think
Yep.
outside the box and be flexible with our thinking.
Yes. Yes, we do. And I have really started to personally and publicly reframe things, right? When I'm struggling with something and I think it's related to the disease, my answer is, oh, that's the disease. Oh, that's the disease trying to keep me small or get me off my game, or that's the disease telling me that it doesn't like something that I'm trying. So to have that space and that ability to kind of talk back to it is wonderful. And I'm always amazed. I think that I have learned so much, and I have learned so much. I'm shocked at all the things I'm learning every day with really simple conversations, right? I mean, it's just having the space to go, I read this, what does this mean? Or you wrote this, I don't get it, or I'm really struggling with this. That's where we learn. That's how we move into that growth mindset and expand our opportunity to connect, learn, and grow.
Exactly. And even tying that back into imposter syndrome, if somebody who had imposter syndrome didn't think they belonged, they may be closed off in a sense of not being open to learning, right? Like you may not even
Yes.
be in that
Oh yeah.
space to learn because
Yep.
you are so stuck in the thought that you don't belong because you're, quote, an imposter. As opposed
Yeah.
to, you know
Yep.
what? I mean, something more neutral and realistic may even be, I don't know if I'm an imposter. I don't know if I'm supposed to be there, but I'm going to go and I'm going to
Uh,
see. That may be able to
yeah.
resonate a little bit more with you, right? Like maybe I don't really know if I belong. I was asked, I'm not really sure. Somebody thinks I do, I'm not really sure, but I'm going to go and I'm going to test the
Yeah.
waters. That's also
That
okay. That's reframing to work for us. Because
yeah.
again, it may not be realistic to be like, yes, I belong. I know I'm going to do it. I'm going to be amazing. No, I'm going to go and I'm going to try my best and then let's see.
Yep. And I that resonates with me so deeply. Every day I feel like I'm talking to somebody in BariNation who will message me and they'll say, I'm just so scared to hop into a law to hop into something. I've never felt like I belong, or I don't think I belong anywhere." And my response back to them really is pretty consistently, well, you're not going to know until you step into the room. You
Same thing.
can't belong and do nothing. If you really want to belong, you need to put yourself out into that whatever it is that you wish to belong into. But if you're standing on the outside looking in, yeah, no, you're never going to feel that way because, and I get it, it's risky. But you're either going to stay here and go nowhere, or you're going to take a little risk and see what's on the other side.
I'm like giggling inside because it makes me think of something I often say, which is if you don't ask, the answer is no. If you don't show up,
Mhm.
no, then you don't belong, right? It's the same
Yes.
thing. But by showing
Yes.
up, you're going to realize either you do belong or maybe it's not the right fit for you, right?
Yeah.
Fact, maybe. But I
Yes. Yeah.
always say to people, if you don't ask, the answer is no. Done.
Yes. Yeah.
So we have to be
Yes.
open to the possibility.
So take all the things you just said about being available and to put that into 2 weeks from now, and it'll
Exactly.
I gotta say, I was worried about what was coming ahead, and I am feeling less worried about it. I'm feeling actually a little bit more hopeful and a little bit more inspired, and I guess just a little bit more empowered to lean into. Yes, we were asked to be here for a reason, and now we're here. Oh my
Amazing.
gosh. Dr. Goldman, this conversation has been
Mind blowing.
amazing. I'm like, like, don't even know don't even freaking. I mean, I knew it would be good. Jason and I, we were like little kids texting back and forth this morning. We're like, we're so freaking excited for this, and this is gonna be such a
Aw.
good conversation. And it was 1,000 times better than I
Oh,
could have ever imagined. Jason, thank you for resharing Dr. Goldman's amazing social post, because that's what started the conversation between you and Dr. Goldman. Thank you so much for joining us today. If people have follow-up questions about this conversation, where can they get in contact with you?
yeah. And first, I just want to say thank you to both of you. I loved our conversation and just really so grateful that so much of my work resonates with you and your community. So thank you. So people can follow me on any social media platform, Dr. Rachel NYC. I always like to remind people, as much as I love to hear from you, and I do want to hear from you, pop into my DMs, but DMs or Instagram or social media or podcasts are not therapy. I'm always happy to provide tips or resources or referrals, but it's not therapy. But please pop in there. I love connecting with everybody. And of course, my book, When Life Happens. You can go to whenlifehappensbook.com and you can purchase the book anywhere you purchase your books, whatever your favorite place is. Go ahead and buy it. And I love to hear from people that they bought it too. There were a few places within the book that even was like, hey, email me your goal, email me where you are right now. Like, I really do love that connection and hearing from everybody. So I would love to hear from people.
Oh, well, thank you again for your time, your expertise, your wisdom, and your wonderful ability to help us take very big, scary, confusing things and distill them down into really tangible things that we can do in our lives every day. It's amazing.
Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you.
All right, friends. Well, thank you for tuning in. Purchase Dr. Goldman's book. Let us know what you think. And hopefully, Dr. Goldman, we can welcome you back soon.
That wraps up another empowering episode of the BariNation podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, keep the conversation going by joining the BariNation membership community, where you can attend live support events, access on-demand resources, and find a caring community.
Join us at barination.mn.co. If you found this podcast valuable, help us produce it by becoming a $5 monthly supporter at barinationpodcast.com.
And just remember, at the end of the day, you've got this, we've got you, and we'll see you next time. Bye, everybody.